Perfect Turd Podcast, episode 38, Lamar.
Yeah.
Slashening, part
Slashening. Slashening part 2, or technically the final beginning.
Comes to us by Annum Films, which is distributed by Troma Films.
Yep.
Written by Brandon Basham, and he also wrote a movie that we just saw just a few weeks ago, Shakespeare Shitstorm, which we really enjoyed.
Well, let's get into it.
This
is number 2 of the series, I guess, because there was Slashening, which came out before. And so they made a sequel. And should we just go over a little bit of that movie? Like what happened there?
Yeah, we must go over that movie. It takes like the slasher tropes.
Yeah.
You have these girls that are having just like a sleepover, get together.
In a
house. Then the boys show up. There's a slasher killer on the loose.
Yes.
It has a lot of the tropes, a lot of the characters, like the kind of stereotypical characters. Like there's a nerdy girl, there's a slut, there's a do-gooder, there's a nice guy, the douchey boyfriend. It's got all of that. This movie, The Slashening Part 1, for me, took all the slasher movie tropes, rolled them up into a ball, threw it in an inferno of craziness, comedy.
Pretty much, yes.
I love that movie. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. It might be the times we're living in. Like maybe I need this, just something that's crazy and makes me laugh. If we were rating that movie today, I would give it a 5 out of 5 just for the laugh factor. I loved it.
A lot of good parts. Like it's definitely a parody of all
it's a
those
parody.
Characters and everything like that, and it does it pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's one of those things where it's like, you know, when you watch those older movies, they take it to the max with these characters, like to the max. It's like, you know what you're watching. So yeah, it was a good little parody of all the slasher movies of the 80s and the 90s.
Now, one of the kind of funny running jokes through the movie, and we won't spoil the endings of either of these movies, but one of the running jokes through the movies is they ordered pizza, and the pizza man came, but he got the slasher got him.
Kept on killing them.
And so they kept on just complaining that they hadn't gotten their pizza yet. So the pizza parlor kept on sending more pizza guys, and they keep getting killed. That's what leads us that's what ties us into part 2.
Yes. Everybody has issues, Joe. And so this young girl is the daughter of the man who kept on sending these young men to this house that kept on getting killed. And, you know, she's dealing with that stress, and she's talking to other people about it. Mm-hmm. And then throughout the movie, people just keep on getting murked.
Yep, the slashing is happening again.
The slashing is happening, and even one of the victims, he's the head of the actual group that he's facilitating the group, the top group. You know,
he was one of the survivors from the first one.
Oh well, if you call what he's living surviving.
He had a body part dismembered in the first one, and now it ends up being a very crazy but funny scene in the new one.
Yes, but yeah, that's the premise of the movie. It's all coming back. The slashing is happening again.
And the one thing about both of these movies that I liked a lot were the endings, because the endings are not what you expected it to be. It's done in a very clever way, and the endings are actually really good.
Yeah, and they make sense on why they're killing everybody. Yeah, there's an underlying theme of our society with, you know, I guess, you know, people, once again, like social justice, like we were talking about with Shakespeare's Shitstorm, people being too sensitive and people focusing on certain things that aren't really important. And that's in both of these movies.
Yeah, especially in the second one. They hit more of the social commentary points on the second one than they did the first one. The first one was just, everything was crazy.
Yeah, they were just...
Every character was over the top and crazy.
Oh, yes.
So, I loved it, dude. I loved it. So, there was a funny part in the second one where they had a character that was, I think it was a little bit of a Joe Rogan. There was a character that was talking about DMT. he was like, you got to smoke the DMT. Like, the government doesn't want you to smoke DMT. They don't want you to see what's real and stuff. And I was like, that's kind of a Joe Rogan thing. So I thought that was funny.
Was he the guy that kept on saying things like, are you sure that actually happened? Do you know if that happened?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the same guy. Yeah. Like, somebody would tell a deep story and they would be like,
yeah,
he would just be like, are you sure that happened? It couldn't have been. You don't know if it's real or not. And he's
right.
And it's like, yes, it's my personal experience. I think I would know.
Between these two movies, there was a increase of like production value and whatnot.
Yes, they did. Yeah, just the first one they only had one location. The second one they did multiple locations.
Yeah.
They might have reused some of them, but maybe they were just repurposed them or something like that. But it felt like it was a movie that took place in different places. Like, it wasn't just like one set. So they went to, I'm going to say the extreme. They used what they had wisely.
Yes. Yeah. And it came out really well.
Yeah.
All right. So should we get into the rating of it?
We can get into the rating of it. Yeah. What would you rate it, sir?
Okay. I really liked part 2, but I loved part 1.
So, okay.
I watched both of these movies back to back, and I think I was coming off of that high from loving part 1 so much because I laughed my ass off with that movie. And you really got to know the characters. As crazy as they were, you got to know all their details of each character and who they are and what they were. You didn't have that with the second one as much. For me, the second one, I'm going to rate it 3.5 out of 5. I did like it. I do recommend it, but for me, it's just that I love the first one so much. And I had that first one high. So I recommend both movies.
Interesting. So for me, I would recommend both of them.
Yeah.
I actually like the second one even more. Okay. I would say it's a 5 out of 5 because there's some underlying themes in the movie that they just make fun of a lot. Yeah. And then I feel like they really upped the ante with what they were doing and everything like that, the production value and all that kind of stuff. So I would say a 5 out of 5. Definitely check it out because, like you said, the ending is not what you expect.
Yeah, the endings in both movies are really good.
Yeah,
and you know what? I'm gonna up my rating to 4 out of 5.
Don't let me influence you.
No, it's not that. It's just I realized like the reason why I rated it a little lower is because I love the first one so much, and I watched them back to back. I think the first one is amazing. I laughed so hard throughout that movie.
The cocaine chick has to be one of my favorite parody characters.
The douchey boyfriend was great.
He was good. Yeah. I mean, they really this is a person who has watched those movies.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I was coming off of that high from the first movie. I'll change my vote. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 for me, 5 out of 5 for you for the Slashening Part 2.
Just check this one out because it throws you for a loop.
Go watch all their films. They've got the Slashening 2, Fear Town USA.
Which is also by this director.
Yeah, all up on Troma. So yeah, check them out. They're really cool. That kind of wraps this one up. Now next week, we're doing The Condemned.
Oh boy.
Starring Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Condemned Part 2 starring Randy Orton, 2 WWE superstars.
Definitely subscribe to the channel for all of our stuff. So, yep, that's it for the Slashening.
Yeah.
The final beginning.
Yeah, Perfect Turd Podcast episode 38. Peace.
Deuces.